Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone in today's class for the first intermediate grade. Our textbook is Super Goal 2 and today we will cover the expansion units from Unit 5 until Unit 8 language review. This lesson will be presented by me, teacher Mazen Harbi, and the sign language by Mr. Fawaz Al-Agil. So let's begin. Our objectives in today's lesson, we hope that at the end of this lesson, you will be able to, number one, review the simple past of verb to be, which was presented in Unit 7, and review the past tense of verb to be and other verbs from Unit 8, and review the simple past, and then refuse the future with the verb to be plus going to from Unit 5, and finally the review of past forms. So basically we are going to review most of the functions, most of the forms, and also the grammar rules that we have taken and we have learned from Unit 5 until Unit 8. So let's begin by opening our books on page 72. Let's open our books on page 72. On this page, as you can see, here we have our first exercise for today. The first exercise said, complete the following sentences, complete the following conversations using was, were, wasn't, or weren't, using was or were, wasn't, or weren't. So in this exercise, we're going to practice, we're going to remind ourselves of the past form of verbs to be. And we have learned that the past form of verbs to be of am, is, and are these was and were, both in affirmative and in negative statements. So let's begin. So here we have in the blue box, here we have conversations. What we need to do is that we'll try to complete these conversations with the appropriate verb, either was or were, wasn't or weren't. So let's begin with number one. Number one, here we have two parties. The first one, A, says, where blank you yesterday? Where you yesterday? So here we need to choose either was or were. And in order to pick the appropriate choice or the appropriate answer, we need to remind ourselves what is the suitable verb to be with these pronouns. So we have learned that each subject pronoun has its own verbs. So for example, we said that he and she and it has their own verbs to be, and also you, they, we, they have also, and I, they have also their own verbs to be. So just remind me, what is the verb that we can use with the subject pronoun you? Is it was or were? Very good. It is were. We have learned that we can use were with the subject pronoun you. So the first question of this conversation is, where were you yesterday? Where were you yesterday? So the other person here is trying to answer. He said, I at school. I blank at school. The question again, should we use was or were? And before you decide, just think of the subject pronoun I. What is the verbs to be that we use in the past with I? Is it was or were? Excellent. Yes, with I we use was. So I was at school. I was at school. So here we have answered the question, where were you yesterday? The other person said, I was at school. So the first person will have a reply. Let's read what he is going to say. He say here, no, you blank. So we have learned as well that we use and how to use the negative form. So the negative form in this case is either wasn't or weren't. And since we have, the same goes here, the same rule applies here. Since we have the subject pronoun you, what is the appropriate verb or the appropriate choice? Is it wasn't, no you wasn't, or no you weren't? Very good. The answer is no you weren't. You were at the mall. You were at the mall. So here you go. Here how we can answer the first question. Let me read it for you again. A said, where were you yesterday? B, I was at school. A, no you weren't. You were at the mall. So this is the answer of the first conversation. Let's move on to the conversation number 2. So here we have two people, A and B. Let's see the first one. Better, blank, the best student in the class. Better, the best student in the class. So here the question again. Should we use was or were? Here again you should remind yourself of what is the pronoun, the subject pronoun that we use either with was or with were. And here we have a name, better. If you want to change better into a pronoun, what would it be? And if we chose that pronoun, then we can decide whether if it's was or were. So, better was or better were? Very good, the answer is was. Better was the best student in the class. The other person, B, obviously he disagreed. So he used the negative form, or he started his answers with no. No, he. So what should we use with the subject pronoun he? Is it wasn't or weren't? Very good, we use wasn't. No, he wasn't. Adil was. No, he wasn't. Adil was. So let me read the conversation or the second conversation for you. A, Badr was the best student in the class. B, no he wasn't. Adil was. So here how can we answer the first two conversation? We still have two more conversations. Let's start with conversation number 3. A, how long the trip to the zoo? How long blank the trip to the zoo? So here we need to continue it as we said again, either with was or were. But how can we decide if that we know or we refer the things or the subject that we're talking about here into a pronoun? So it would be, how long was the trip? The trip, the subject pronoun we use with this verb to be is it. So we are referring the trip to the subject pronoun it, then we can use was. So how long was the trip to the zoo? B, it was 2 hours. It was 2 hours. So there is still this conversation continues. What were the parrots like? What were the parrots like? Again, here is the subject, is in plural, and we agree that if it's in plural, we use were. So, what were the parrots like? They were fabulous. They are my favorite birds. They were fabulous, and they are my favorite birds. So this is how can we answer conversation 3. Let me read it for you again. How long was the trip to the zoo? B, it was 2 hours. A, what were the parrots like? B, they were fabulous. They are my favorite birds. So let's continue now into conversation number 4. A, how everything at the restaurant? So here again we refer it to the pronoun, and it would be, how was everything at the restaurant? B, well, the food was delicious, but the service was very slow. The food, here we're talking about something singular, was delicious, but the surface was very slow. So let's read it again. A, how was everything at the restaurant? B, well, the food was delicious, but the surface was very slow. So here are the answers of conversation number 3 and number 4. Now, let us continue to exercise B. Let us continue to exercise B. So exercise B says here, complete the conversation with the sentences from the box. So here also we have a conversation, and what we need to do is that we're going to take these questions and sentences and put them in their appropriate place. So let's read the sentences first, and then we can read the conversation and choose where to put each sentence or each question. So the first one here we have, so you had lots of fun. What did you do there? How was your trip to London? What was it like? Show me your photos sometime. Who did you go with? So these are the sentences and questions. Now let's read the conversation and try together to put each sentence and question in its appropriate place. So Ahmad says, it was wonderful. Also Ahmad says, my parents and my brother, and here we visited all the sites and we went to the British Museum. So let's answer the first part of that conversation, and then we will move to the second part. The first part here says, it was wonderful. Ahmad said to answer Mr. Greg, he said it was wonderful. So what do you think the question was? What do you think the question that Greg asked Ahmad that makes Ahmad answer by saying, it was wonderful? Very good. So the question will be, how was your trip to London? How was your trip to London? So this is the question. And Ahmad replied by saying, it was wonderful. Now, let's move on to the second part and listen and try to guess what Mr. Greg said. So Mr. Greg said here something that made Ahmad reply by saying, my parents and my brother. So what do you think the question was? Very good. The question is, how did you or who did you go with? Who did you go with? Who are the people that you did go with? So this is what made Ahmad reply by saying, my parents and my brother. Next, Ahmad replied by saying, we visited all the sites and we went to the British Museum. So what do you think the question was that made Ahmad reply with this answer? Very good. The question was, what did you do there? What did you do there? So here we have finished the first part, or we have answered the first part of this conversation by choosing 3 questions. The first one, how was your trip to London? Ahmad said it was wonderful. The second one, who did you go with? He said, my parents and my brother. And the third one, what did you do there? Ahmad said, we visited all the sites and we went to the British Museum. So let's continue the second part. And before we continue it, let me read you Ahmad's replies. It was, the first one he said, it was awesome. The second one, oh yeah, we had a great time. And the third one, I didn't take any. I lost my smartphone and forgot my camera. So let's begin with the first one. When Ahmad replied by saying, it was awesome, what do you think the question was? Very good. The question was, what was it like? What was it like? What was London like? And Imad said it was awesome. Let's move to the other part. And Imad here replied by saying, oh yeah, we had a great time. So what do you think the question was? Excellent. The question was, so you had lots of fun. You had lots of fun. Imad replied to this by saying, oh yeah, we had a great time. So here we are left only with the one question, which is, show me your photos sometimes. Show me your photo sometime. Imad said, I didn't take any because I lost my smartphone and I forgot my camera. So here you go. Here are the answers of this conversation. We have read the questions and sentences, and we have put them in their appropriate places in this conversation. Now, let us move on to exercise C. And exercise C here is very important, because what I would like you to do, and you can practice this with me, maybe a family member or a friend of yours, or maybe a classmate. What I need you to do here is use this table and try to write down the things that you did last week. Try to write down the things that you did last week. So here we have in this table, it divided into three parts. The first one is day, write down the day, and what you did, the things that you did on that day, and also what your partner did, what your partner did. And in order to answer this, you can ask yourself this question. What did you do on Saturday? What did you do on Saturday? So you can sit and think about the things that you did on Saturday, only one thing, maybe. I would like you to think of one thing and write it down here. So you can say, for example, I hung out with my friends. How about you? So it's really good that when you choose someone to answer this question with, is to role play. You ask the question, then he asks the question, and you can write down the answers on this table. I'm going to show you an example. So let's first list the days, as you can see here, starting from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, until Saturday, okay? And let me try. I wrote some activities I did on each day. For example, on Sunday, if you ask me, what did you do on Sunday? I would say that I played football at the park. I played football at the park. And if you ask me, what did you do on Monday? I would say, I studied for my math exam. I studied for my math exam. And also, if you ask me, what did you do on Wednesday? What did you do on Wednesday? I would say, I went to the mall. I went to the mall. And again, if you ask me about what did you do on Friday, I would say I visited my grandparents. So remember, you only have to write down one thing that you did on each day. And when you write down these things, now you can ask your partner. You can ask him about the things that he did last week. So you can say, for example, you can ask him, what did you do? Okay, or write down what did he do last week. You can say he went to the mall on Saturday. And if I ask you what did he do on Tuesday, you can say he watched a film. And if I ask you again, what did he do on Friday, you can say he traveled to Mecca. So this is how can you fill in this table, by sitting next to a family member maybe, or a friend of yours, and try to ask him about the things that he did last week. It's very important when you answer this question is that you use all the best form of each of these verbs. So as you can see here, all of these we use only the best form. Played, studied, went, visited, traveled, watched, hung. So it's very important that we use the past form. Now, if you finish this part, let's move on to the other part, which is about the future, next week. So we practice how can we answer in a past form. Now we're going to practice using the future form. So I can ask you this question: what are you going to do on Monday? Next week, not the last week, next week. So you can use the future form that we have learned by saying, I am going to study English and history. So again, what you need to do here is just to list the days from Sunday until Saturday, and then ask me the following question on each day. If you ask me again, what are you going to do on Monday? I would say, I am going to visit the library. And if you ask me, what are you going to do on Wednesday? I would say, I am going to buy new shoes. And on Thursday, I am going to invite my cousins. Now it is my turn. If I ask you about your friend, what is he going to do next week? Let's say, for example, on Sunday, you can say, he is going to practice at the gym. And also, what is he going to do on Tuesday? You can say, he is going to go to the English Academy. And the last one, what is he going to do on Friday? You can say he is going to do his homeworks. So again, it's very important that you differentiate. When you're talking about last week, you use the past form of these verbs. And when you are talking about next week, is that we use going to plus the base form of the verb, as we can see here in this table. Try this exercise. I am very sure that you will enjoy it. Now, the last exercise we have for today is exercise D. How much can you remember, write your answers, and you can compare it with a partner. So maybe with a classmate, you have these questions, and you try to compare your answers. Just write your answer quickly and check your memory, how fast you can remember or how much you can remember this question. For example, the question are, what did you wear yesterday? What time did you go to bed last night? What did you eat for lunch yesterday? Who was the first person you talked on the phone today? And what was the last thing you bought at the mall? And what was the last film you saw on TV? So this is the question. When you read those questions, you answer them immediately and see how much you can remember. And then you can compare it after you finish. Tell your classmate about your partner's answer and compare your answer. So I did it for myself, and these are the answers that I come up with when answering this question. Now, don't forget that to check on your workbook on pages 123 and 124 to review the grammar and vocabulary presented in units 5 to 8. And now we have reached the end of our lesson. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.